Okay. We're legit. We're live.
We're live?
We're live. They gave me the crappy pen.
You can have whichever pen you want.
I don't like the ones that have caps on them.
We're in your office, sir. Take that damn pen.
There we go. You take this one. I'll take this one. Actually, yeah, I'm good.
I hope this makes the final cut.
All right, so welcome back to another episode. We're back, actually, Ask a Man podcast series here on the Wolf and Iron podcast with my friend Brandon McConnell. How you been, man?
Been good. Doing a lot of traveling. It's good to be home, and yeah, it's good to be back.
All right, thanks for that deep thought there.
Didn't go real deep there. Sorry about that.
I'm taking the headphones off here. So we are back, and it's you know, what the feedback I got from you guys who are listening to this was that you really liked the Ask a Man podcast. You liked just Brandon and I's interactions and that kind of stuff. And you particularly liked how we weren't 100% knowledgeable about what we were talking about, but we still went for it. So,
yeah, we were both born with a pair of testicles and we've reached adulthood. So we know something.
It's better than the advice you're getting elsewhere, I imagine. So we're going to do a couple changes to the format just a little bit here. Some of the things are going to be basically the same. The biggest change is going to be we're not going to try to tackle two questions anymore unless it's just a really small thing. It helps us to just kind of focus on the one. Plus, we both have lives and things we got to do. And so we're going to be tackling just one question, but we're going to go as deep into that as we can.
This is a pretty deep question, too.
This one's, we're going to be talking about today what it means to be an American, how to have pride in being an American. And you can actually extrapolate this to whatever country you're from. Unless your country sucks, then you really can't. Yeah. But you'll get a lot from this, I imagine, from this discussion. But before we jump into that, let me tell you guys, we need questions. And, Brandon and I, when we get together, we talk about all kinds of stuff, right? It could be politics, it could be theology, it could be any number of things. And we actually think that we know what we're talking about when it comes to these things, for the most part. And, so send us questions, guys. You can head over to wolfandiron.com/askaman. Throw them out there. We'll get the questions. If they make the cut, you'll hear them here. But they could be about anything: marriage, family, job stuff, health stuff, theology, and things like that. Stuff I've already mentioned. So we need questions. Get those over to us. We'll be glad to answer those for you. So today's question comes from a guy named Nathaniel, and because that is his name. And
it's good. It's good that we didn't give him a pseudonym.
And I'll kind of give you a synopsis here, guys, of what he's asking. So, and a lot of you feel this, and this is why we chose this one for today.
Yeah, it actually is a really good question.
It's a really good question. He wants to know, how do I have pride in my country, right? He's an American. He thinks about the values that we were founded on, and he goes, man, those are the things that I'm excited about. Those are the things that to me speak to, what it means to be an American. But then he sees all the things that are going on today, whether it be in politics or maybe it's on the social scene. And he really just has a hard time just kind of associating himself with what it means to be an American, because that can mean any number of different things to people. And I was actually thinking about this. My wife and I are trying to plan a trip to Italy for next year. And I do have that sort of in the back of my head about, I really want to say I'm from America, right? It's pretty obvious I'm an American. But I want to carry that sort of sense of pride. But then there's that pang there as well, as like they know what's going on over here to some degree, and just
I think they know what they're being told. I don't know if they.
That's true.
That's one of my issues. Anyhow, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's good. And so there's this sense of kind of feeling of like, I really want to be proud of where I'm from. At the same time, I feel like I have to explain away a lot of the nonsense that's going on today. So that's what we're going to be talking about. And so since I did the intro, I'm going to allow you to, Brandon, to kind of take it away. What are your thoughts on this as we just get started?
Well, it's a very multifaceted question. There's a lot of different at play there. Mm-hmm. I think at the most base level, America has an amazing history. It's an amazing experiment that started almost... Well, I don't want to say almost perfect. There were two things, in my opinion, in the founding of this country that were massive oversights by the founding fathers: slavery and term limits on the Congress. Mm-hmm. Obviously, slavery is absolutely fundamentally wrong, and it's not something that should have been part of the founding of our country, but it is what it is. and the term limits on Congress, that kind of gets you where we are today with just career politicians who are, it's how you end up with a John McCain or a Nancy Pelosi who've just been in there for decades and, looks like the only way they're going out is by death. In McCain's case anyhow. Not that I'm laughing at the man's death, of course, but, it's just kind of a sad situation. I think the reason was because it was a genuine act of service back then. They didn't get paid. They were businessmen who went into the legislature to genuinely contribute. And it's not that way anymore for 95% of them.
Yep.
Just a very self-serving endeavor. Anyhow, that's getting a little bit into the weeds. How do you be proud of America? America is still the only place where you have people clamoring, risking their lives to get to it for the opportunity that is still here. Is it as good as it ever was? I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but it's still a hell of a sight better than... I can't think of anywhere else in the world that has the opportunity that America has. Now, along with having opportunity to succeed, you are also afforded the opportunity to fail. Mm-hmm. And that's why you have so much of the income inequality. And we've got a wider gamut of success and failure than any other nation in the world.
Yeah.
We have the richest man in the world, and we have, well, I don't know. Poor in America is still pretty damn good by a lot of the world standards. So I don't know if I want to go that far. But we've got a wider spread than anywhere else because the poorest country in the world doesn't have anywhere near the wealth that we have here in America. So we've all, I guess if you were born into it, you didn't really have a choice. But the agreement was made that we're going to try this thing out called capitalism, and we're going to see what happens. And, you've got the opportunity to succeed, but you've damn sure got the opportunity to fail. I've done a little bit of succeeding, but I've done a whole lot more failing. But you know what? That's where the growth lies. That's where you learn. Growth lives on the far side of pain, and, you got to go through the pain to get the growth. Yeah. It's kind of like working out.
Yep. That's good.
So yeah, and how do you be proud of America? I'm not proud of American politicians. I'm not proud of a lot of American traditions of excess and just a lot of the stuff that you're seeing out of Hollywood and stuff like that. But I'm damn sure proud of the opportunity that is afforded American citizens to make something of themselves or to not make something of themselves. And I think we've got a system set up where if you decide to improve yourself, accomplish something, overcome your circumstances, overcome your situations, and charge ahead with reckless abandon, you could succeed. But we've also got a group of elected officials and personalities and famous people that are telling you it's not your fault, we'll take care of you, it's all on us, we'll make it happen for you. And I don't know what it's going to take to get people to see that that's all bullshit, but it's there's still a lot of people that expect the government to look out for them or think the government's got the best interest at heart, and it's just not the case.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of went in a lot of different directions there. I apologize. I just did verbal diarrhea all over your table.
No, it's okay. Well, it's been a while since we got together, so as expected. Verbal diarrhea.
You'll take verbal diarrhea over actual diarrhea.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, we may have some of that later on. We don't know. I gave you some strong coffee there, so
yeah.
No, so there's a lot of jumping off places there. I think part of the thing about being an American is this: you got to understand that just because you're born in America and you've lived here all your life and you're a citizen here and all that kind of stuff, doesn't necessarily mean that your lifestyle and your ideals are actually American. So what I mean by that is if you're born here, but you're living off of the government perpetually, right? Not because of it's not your choice when you're a kid or that kind of stuff, or circumstances have put you there, but by choice, you're perpetuating this really an un-American ideal of I'm going to live off of somebody else's, allow somebody else to make the money. I'm going to take it, through them, through the government and that kind of stuff. or you just have this sort of mindset of excess and things of that nature. That's not necessarily American. You got to go back to the founding principles. What was the country about when we began? What are the laws that actually say, the rights and the freedoms that we have? And when you begin to get outside of that, and you're looking for other people to do for you, even like what you're talking about, the government to do for you, the government to take care of you, the government to solve your problems, that's fundamentally un-American. That's not up for debate, guys. This is not a Republicans versus Democrats. How do we want to run the system? That kind of stuff. No, it is fundamentally
because Republicans will try to be your sugar daddy just as much as a daggum Democrat.
Exactly
will.
Right.
Think it'll get them a vote.
The most American stance that you can have in that situation is, how can I take care of these things myself as an individual and solve my own problems, or maybe get other individuals, to form a group so we can solve problems together. The last thing you want to do is rely on the government. So that's un-American. So I think you got to understand that when you talk about being proud and being an American, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're proud to be in tune or in line with what you see on the media that the other people are doing, because the media is just going to show you the nonsense out there. To be proud to be an American actually means to understand what those original ideals are: the hard work, the dedication to your family and to your own pursuit of happiness, but within the bounds of character there, right? There's virtues there. And so outside of that, you've got a lot of un-American things taking place. And so what we see actually in society, I think, is a lot of un-American things taking place in America. That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, and I mean, the education system is not doing anything to solve any of this either, too. Like, I think I grew up thinking America was a democracy. And if you turn on any news channel, they'll talk about the America being a democracy.
Yep.
America is not a democracy.
Right.
It is a democratic republic. Democracy is majority rules, and a republic is the founding documents rule, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights rule. And I think when you go at this everyday life with the mindset of a democracy, that people are very fickle. And the founding fathers understood that people will get blown around in the wind just to suit their own desires and passions and the things that they care about. And they understood putting a strong document in place and making it not difficult, but labor intensive to change that document. Mm-hmm. And they understood human nature better than I think most people living today did. And that's why they put the Constitution in place and made it it's a task to modify that document. Yeah. And that's for good purpose. But we've got a lot of people are being educated to the fact that the United States is a democracy. Yeah. Democracy is two wolves and a sheep deciding what's for dinner. Mm. That's the most basic example of what democracy looks like. Yeah. And we've got a constitution that says veal chops are not on the menu. Is veal a baby sheep? No, that's a baby cow, isn't it?
Yeah, veal's a baby cow. I
screwed the pooch on that metaphor. Yeah. Sorry, guys.
That's okay. Well, I'm going to correct you on one other thing, too. Okay. So you got the idea right, but the United States is actually a constitutional republic, not a democratic republic. Now, I guess this gets confusing. Confusing.
Yeah, you're right.
It's a constitutional. So essentially what happens is the Constitution, the way we established this country is that we flipped it on its head, right? Usually it was coming from the kingly kind of, what do we call that? It's not a republic, whatever it is.
Monarchy?
Monarchy, yes. Thank you very much.
You really should have your computer in front of you.
I know. I really pause, make it sound like I knew what I was talking about. Yeah. So we got coming from the monarchy kind of standpoint, the king decides all the different things that are going to happen and that kind of stuff, right? And so we said, no, we don't want that. We want to actually put limiting. The Constitution is actually written so that it limits the powers of government, and then gives the rest of the powers implicitly or explicitly in some cases to the people. So we're a constitutional republic, but we have some democratic type of things in place where we have representatives and things of that nature, which kind of represent the votes of the people. So like in a traditional, purely democratic thing, every person would have one vote. In a representative democracy, we would have votes kind of like by proxy through our representatives. So we got some of that stuff going on. And the challenges with us where we are now is that we are technically still a constitutional republic functioning like a democracy. So we have the politicians go up there and they say they're going to solve everything, and then we cast our votes through our representatives, to say, please do this or please do that. And the politicians are basically just trying to run the show as much as they can. They're trying to get around the Constitution as much as they can. You guys know this. You see this. Politicians shouldn't decide what kind of light bulbs I'm going to have in my house, right? Or what kind of toilet I should be allowed to have. Should I have?
I want a 9-gallon per flush toilet.
Flush all the crap. That's how many. Right, we can solve these kind of things ourselves as consumers and individuals. We don't necessarily need the government in there, but obviously, when a politician comes up and says, "I'm going to make the environment a safer, healthier place for your grandchildren," then we start to function more like a democracy. So. Anyhow, so we're getting kind of a little bit off topic here.
Yeah, are you proud of this or not proud of this? I'm trying to figure that out.
Well, so I'm actually I'm not proud of where we are now, and actually we've been functioning this way since probably about the second president, that we had to some degree, right? I mean, very early on, people began to see how they could influence elections and get the politicians that they wanted on their side and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then so the limiting powers are still there, but they're being challenged and have been expanded over the years.
Well, it's because people suck.
Yes, people suck.
Human beings suck at everything, especially in large groups.
Yeah.
So America is a large group of humans, and we suck at everything, and we're screwing it all up. And it just, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hijack, but it's kind of like, am I proud of where America is or how America is portrayed by the rest of the world, or, how people conduct themselves as representatives of America? Well, no, but I'm proud of the fact that there are still people literally risking their lives to get here. That says something about the rest of the world versus what we've got going on from sea to shining sea.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And so in that sense, I'm absolutely proud to be an American, and I am proud. So I guess I should have said that at the beginning, right? I'm proud to be an American, big time.
I'm proud to be an American.
Yeah, America.
Just not for the reasons that, I'm proud of what America has accomplished despite its government.
Yeah. I'm not proud of slavery, but I am proud that we were willing to fight and end it, that even if it meant possibly tearing our country apart. I'm not saying that I don't want to go down this whole road. Was the Civil War really about slavery? Was it really about states' rights? Okay. Doesn't really matter.
States' rights to do what?
Yeah. I think own slaves.
To keep slaves.
They have slaves. Yeah. So regardless of all that kind of stuff, I am glad that we were willing to go through what we went through and then recover from it, which is incredible.
Yeah.
Okay. I could rabbit trail on that all day long. I do want to talk about nationalism because I think this is a part of it, right? So in the 1950s, we're coming out of World War II, even out of World War I, but especially out of World War II, there was a real strong sense of pride of America, right? Prior to that, we still had this, the westward expansion. Oh gosh, what am I thinking of here? You guys are already thinking of this as I'm saying it, but Theodore Roosevelt was a big proponent of this. The westward expansion of America, and just
about like the Louisiana Purchase and all that. Or?
Yeah, that, but also it was just kind of like America's going to go and get as big as it can get, right?
Yeah.
I forget what that was called, but you guys can chime in on this. Anyhow, we had this sort of mindset that America could be all and is going to just continue to grow and grow and grow because of our ideals and everything. We owe it to the world to become the dominating force. And so, yes, westward expansion to our own shores, but maybe even beyond that. Well, that kind of got squashed at some point. But then after World War II, we still had this real strong sense of national pride of what it meant to be an American, because our ideals and what we were able to accomplish were very much being tested, right? I mean, here's what the Nazis want to do, and socialism and communism, and then we also had even Russia still had screwed up ideas.
Does it boggle your mind that we have Americans who are begging for socialism?
Yeah,
Okay.
Sure. It boggles my mind to a degree, but then the fact that we still had that, even as World War II was taking place, we had people over here saying socialism. I mean, Americans, right? That grew up in America saying socialism was, or communism even, was something that we should adopt. Right?
Sorry, I didn't mean to hijack. It just boggles my mind, and
Yeah, absolutely, because they don't understand what it means or what it is. Anyhow, but now as the world has kind of gotten smaller in a sense because of the internet, we're able to see that other people, in fact, have freedoms, right? Even Canada, believe it or not.
Yeah. Who knew? Who knew?
Not just by default of being next to us, but they have their own freedoms. France, maybe not all that bad, but I'm kind of joking around here. But we see that the world has become a smaller place. And does nationalism still have a place in this day and age? What are your thoughts on that?
Give me your definition of nationalism.
Okay, so let's break this out between nationalism and patriotism.
Because that's a term that can get hijacked.
Yeah. So
quickly.
Okay. So patriotism would be I'm proud to be an American, primarily because of my association with other Americans.
Okay.
Nationalism is I'm proud that I'm not other countries. That I'm proud that I'm a nationalistic sense would be because I was born here in America. There's sort of an almost
arrogance,
an arrogance that goes along with it, and a sense of my country for the sake of my country, not necessarily. Whereas patriotism would be my country for the sake of the ideals of my country, if that makes sense. So it's a kind of a fine line there. But nationalism would be very much this is right because it's American, right? Patriotism would be this is right because it stands for the right things. And America happens to stand for the right things, that type of thing. So
I think there is an air of arrogance when this topic comes up, because people look at other countries like, yeah, we're the best at this, we're the best at that, America.
Yeah.
And America is great, but that's not to take anything away from other countries. There's a lot of really great countries on this globe, and I think it comes from like a limited mindset of, well, America's the best, so everything else sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And no, I disagree. I think Switzerland has a lot of really great things going on for it. It's well armed. It's been neutral in pretty much every war. Nobody messes with Switzerland. Things like that. So it's kind of hard to just say it's not black and white. There's a lot of gray here, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know why I picked Switzerland. They got really awesome mountains.
Flowers.
Yeah, beautiful. But I think there's a lot of arrogance when it comes to people's mindset about America as, we're the greatest and we're not even going to listen to these other countries because they couldn't possibly teach us anything.
Mm-hmm.
And, just beating on your chest bravado. America could be dominated by other countries. I don't think people realize that. Like, America could be overtaken. Now, it would be really freaking hard because we got a lot of guns and we got a lot of rednecks. But I'm just saying, you have to think outside the box when you're thinking about warfare and strategy and things like that. There could be something that people aren't even considering done by our enemies, or even, nations that we call our allies that are just tolerating us because they, don't have any other options available to them at this point. Yeah, I don't know. I see a lot of just bravado and arrogance when it comes to nationalism and
well, there seems to be, there's extremes on this, right? Because even today, I think because there's so much of or we came out of sort of a period of anti-America from the media. We still got that, obviously.
I was going to say that's alive and well.
But especially when Barack Obama was president, we had a lot of that. And actually, even while Bush was president. So even going back then, we had a lot of anti-America. And then the pendulum has kind of swung to the, America, or die, anything, if it's not America, it's crap, that kind of stuff, right? And so there's a lot of that chest thumping. And I think there's a middle ground there, but I kind of feel like it's disappearing in general. And let me just kind of flesh this out a little bit. Here's what I'm thinking of. We think about the refugees, right? The issues with the refugees, or even the discussion around immigrants and stuff like that. Other people from other countries coming into America. And I think that America has always had a heart for other nations and the things that are going on. We want to help. We're the most giving country there is. We want to help as much as possible. But to open our own doors and to allow people in to any kind of to any degree like that is relatively new in the sense that I'm not saying people immigrating here. I don't mean that, but I'm saying just the understanding that what people are going through in other countries. And having empathy for them, I think that it's kind of showing that we have this mindset that America is almost becoming second, right? The place that you're born in America has become second to this larger collective that people are beginning to see themselves as part of. and that is the human collective, the world kind of collective.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think when you say I'm a human amongst other humans, even those that I don't understand and disagree with in other countries, and then America kind of is somewhere under that, right? Whereas nationalism would kind of take the place on top of that and always be seated first. I think it's becoming less and less. And I think as we become a more connected, a global economy and more connected, just language wise and internet and all that kind of stuff, social media and all that kind of stuff, we don't really see ourselves as America, the dominating, awesome force as we used to. I think we do begin to see ourselves as this kind of, global collective. And I always wonder, like, what are the complications that brings, if you even see that yourself, but what are the issues that kind of arise out of that?
Well, the global collective works when things are going well. We've had, even counting 2008, 2009, the financial collapse, quote unquote collapse, things have been going really well for America and most of our allies for a really, really long time.
Yeah.
And, people talk about World War II being the greatest generation. And I don't know if that's true. They had the greatest struggle.
Yeah.
And they had the greatest cause to rally around. Like World War II was legit a struggle. And we were only involved in World War II for the very end of it. But we probably bailed
the world out of
world out.
Yeah.
Because it was headed in a really bad direction, and we waited until the last possible nanosecond to get involved. But I think, without struggle, without strife, it's very easy to say, yeah, we're all buddies, we're all getting along, and let's let everybody in and all that. And it's great. I've read the inscription on the Statue of Liberty, and I don't know, there's a lot of bad out there that I would rather not see welcomed into the United States with open arms. Because a key tenet of the legal immigration system, at least it used to be, a key tenet was assimilation. Mm-hmm. We've got a good thing going. And if you want to be a part of that good thing, come on in, learn the language, drive on the right side of the road, get a social security number and a driver's license and all that good stuff. And I just see the people coming to this country and just, there's arrogance on both sides of the ball because they're coming here and making demands and this isn't good enough and I want the X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, who the hell are you?
Yeah.
You just got here. Like, and it's mostly with our friends to the South, but it's, I don't know, just the bravado of people. There's so much being taken for granted. There is so much taken for granted about this country. It's not even funny. And I don't know. If you're going to emigrate, you have to assimilate.
Yeah, that's good.
I wouldn't dare go to Mexico or, Iran or, Bangladesh and demand that everybody speak English to me and, I want a Pizza Hut on every corner. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but
yeah, no, it's like showing up to the party late and saying this punch sucks.
Yeah, and I didn't bring anything with me.
What a douche! Who does that?
Yeah, well, never mind. But anyhow, people are going to think there's an actual experience with punch in our past, and there is not.
Yeah, no, there's not. There's not.
Yeah,
we should.
But I just, if you're going to come, go along to get along.
Yeah.
And I'm a very rebellious spirit, but I also know that there should be limitations to that. And I don't know. I talked to a guy that I met from Jordan, the country of Jordan.
Yeah.
And anytime I'm talking to somebody from another part of the world, I'm always trying to get their perspective just in conversation.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this very subject. And I said, so what is wrong with America from your perspective? And he said, Americans have too much freedom. And when he said that, it kind of pissed me off because I was like, who the hell does this guy think he is? So
even though you asked him the question,
I bit my tongue. And I said, what do you mean by that? And you just whine about everything and you complain about everything and you don't see you don't get outside the United States to look at America with the proper perspective. And I said, okay, that makes sense. And too much freedom, too much good times, too little struggle. Like, struggle is good for a human being.
Yeah.
You are built through the struggles, and if we aren't struggling, we aren't growing.
Yeah.
Period. And I don't know. While he pissed me off initially, he made a lot of sense eventually.
No, that does make sense. And this is actually something that I talk about fairly often on the podcast. And is this, I mean, as life gets easier, whether it's through technology or through laws or just the progress of
air conditioning.
God, I
love air conditioning.
Air conditioning is awesome. It's really cold in here too. It feels great. The whatever the case is, life is going to get easier unless there's some kind of global war or something like that. You've got to have the self-control and the wherewithal to say, how do I challenge myself? I actually got to go out and find challenges. I actually have to go to the gym because life doesn't work me out for me.
Yeah.
Right. I have to go and
ain't no gardens to till.
There's no gardens to till. I mean, you can have those, but you have to make that decision for yourself. And so there's going to be a lot more of that. You want to be, well-rounded kind of individual. You've got to go and explore things that you're not going to be taught in school. You want to be, you want to get out in nature. You actually have to go and find time to go and do walks and go and experience nature. It's not just all around you. You're not raised in the freaking, wilderness anymore. So,
well, the lucky ones are.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. There are things like, it's not that America has too much freedom. It's that we have too little desire and direction to pursue the things that are actually good for us, right? And we for far too long have sold ourselves on this idea that the easier, the faster, the quicker it is, the better it is, and that's what we need to be going for. And it's not the case. We need to say, it matters long term that we slow down, we do things the hard way sometimes, even if we could do them the easier way, and we make conscious decisions to do those things. All right, I'm going to use my podcasting skills here to bring this thing full circle.
Okay.
You want to see this happen?
Let's make it
This is going to be awesome.
Show me the magic.
So one of the things you talked about was people are coming over here and they're kind of demanding things, right?
Yeah.
They're not assimilating. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that Americans have been far too just, we've gotten into this mindset of it's the modern thinking or postmodern thinking of, whatever is good with you is good. You can have your truth. I can have my truth.
Yeah, have 9 genders. Why not?
Yeah, sure. Why not? What's the big deal? That could be another good question. How many genders can we have?
2. We can have 2.
And so people are coming over here, but they're not assimilating because we're not holding ourselves or them to a certain set of principles and values. So this comes back to the initial discussion about what does it mean to be an American? Well, you have to have a certain set of values and principles that you believe in fundamentally that are unchanging. And even though they say things like you can pursue happiness in the way that you want to pursue it, and there's freedom, it doesn't necessarily mean anything goes or that everything is equally good. So yeah, at some point you have to say, here are the things that we believe as America. And because we believe these things, we're not willing to move on these things. And if you want to be an American, if you want to be part of this, then you need to believe these things as well. And that's so counter to anything that's happening today right now. I mean, nobody is saying that. I mean, we're saying this. Very few people are saying this, that there are actual principles. And yes, they are Judeo-Christian principles that if you want to be an American and do things the American way, you're going to have to adhere to some degree, or at least accept. Things outside of those, you got freedom to have your own religion. You got freedom to do things that you want to do. But we're not going to bend to the will of... we're not going to redo our laws for the people who are coming over here just because, I don't know, we sell ham or something like that in grocery stores or whatever the case is.
They try to take the pork. It's going to be a damn revolution.
Yeah, don't forget we got guns. All right, so that's when they're going to come out. So you've got to, at some point, you got to have those foundational principles, and I think that's what you take pride in. I think you define those things and you say, here's what America stands for, as I know it. Anything outside of that is just something else. Socialism or communism or whatever the case is. It's not American.
Stupid.
And so when you say you're an American and you're proud of being an American, that's what you mean. That's what I think.
Yeah, and I've run the gamut as far as my worldview goes. I started off agnostic, went full-blown militant atheist after my dad died, and I'm now a follower of Jesus Christ. But I've always been American, so it's Judeo-Christian, but just because I was an atheist didn't make me see myself as any less of an American.
Yep.
Because, it just made sense to me. The founding documents made sense to me, and I went along with that a long time before I went along with God.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, you're right. There has to be a foundation there. There has to be a principle. There has to be something. And it can't be as fluid as a lot of people would like it to be. It has to be, concrete instead of sand.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, if you want to change concrete, you go get a jackhammer and you put the work in and make it happen. That's kind of like the Constitutional Convention. But
so you brought it full circle too. I see what you just did there.
Yeah, that wasn't even on purpose. I'm not that smart. But yeah, I don't know. I think we need to struggle, Mike.
I think we
need to struggle.
And this is going to be
the greatest generation was the greatest generation because they had the greatest challenge.
They did. They didn't just have the challenge.
And I think it'd be good for us to be tested.
I think so too. And some people talk about the Iraq War when Bush was president and all that kind of stuff. It went on too long and didn't accomplish goals and all this.
The first Bush or the second Bush?
No, the second Bush.
I was going to say the first Bush was like 3 days.
No,
Okay.
yeah. Bush, second Bush, W. And here's the thing, though, guys. I hate to say it, nobody wants to sacrifice our sons and our daughters to war, right? But we've got to have struggles, and we've got to go out there and be tested. And you don't want to start a war just for the sake of testing the next generation, but there's got to be something where we kind of know where we stand as people amongst other people in the world.
Well, and I don't want to go down the whole war trail, but I'm not trying to take anything away from anybody that has served since, I would say World War II, but Vietnam is pretty bad.
Yeah.
I would never try to take anything away because I have not served in the military and I have nothing but respect for our military members. However, the wars that we have fought in my lifetime pale in comparison to the absolute horror of World War I, World War II, the Civil War, and Vietnam was very bad. Vietnam messed up a lot of people psychologically, just because of the unending days of combat.
Mm-hmm.
Vietnam saw the highest days per year of combat of any war that we've ever fought in. So I don't want to take anything away from that, but in my opinion, wars should be declared.
Mm-hmm.
And, it should go through the process of actually declaring war. And when you fight a war, you fight the damn thing freaking all out with little care for collateral damage and hurting people's feelings, because then you've got a cause that is worthy of fighting a war.
Yeah.
And we've done a lot of nation building. We've done a lot of just half-assed efforts at war. And I understand what we're doing now is complicated because it started with terrorism and it's not necessarily uniformed soldiers against us and stuff like that. But I think there's a lot of value in getting the job done and getting out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so too. At the same time, I don't fault Bush W for his approach of trying to win over the hearts and minds. Because here's the thing. At that point, we hadn't really been in a serious conflict. There'd been a lot of changes technologically and relationally between nations. And you think about what nation decides we're going to declare a war, but we're going to try to win over the hearts and minds of the people in the very places that we're bombing, right? You just got to think we're going to be willing to sacrifice our sons and daughters potentially to try and win over hearts. And I don't think that's. I don't think it's foolish. I actually think it's incredibly brave and incredibly noble of an undertaking. I don't think it's necessarily effective.
It's brave and noble. It's just misguided.
Yeah,
We've
exactly.
lost a lot of American service members because of our pussyfooted approach at war.
Yep. And I totally get the mindset behind that of maybe we don't have to obliterate people anymore. I think it's hopeful, And when Bush comes across it as, if there's a way to do this and bring this war to a close without just completely obliterating, generations of families, maybe we should try that.
Yeah.
We tried that a little bit too long. We should have come in stronger. But that, anyhow, talking about though, the greatest generation and their struggles, it wasn't just the war though that gave them that title, the greatest generation. I think
the Depression too.
The Depression and all that, you got to think these guys that served in World War II, these young guys, they had family, they had, sometimes moms and dads, but, certainly grandparents who were immigrants to this country. and they took whatever job they could get to do whatever kind of work that was needed, just to have a place for the next generation, right? For their sons and daughters. And eventually that got to those who actually served in World War II, right? These 18 to 20-something-year-olds that are going over there. And their understanding of that kind of grit and determination that they saw in Grandma and Grandpa and the kind of hard work that they experienced really set them up to be the greatest generation that we've ever had in terms of those who could even enter a war like that, even have the stomach to do something like that. And I really think a lot of times we actually need a strong immigration here in the U.S. There has been many generations of us sort of white Americans, people who've been here for a while, not even just white Americans, all Americans who've been here for a while, but that have had it easy for far too long. And I think that there is a from child kind of almost a generational struggle that needs to be represented here. And I think the immigrants, this is probably going to be unpopular, but I think the people who are coming here, they represent some of that we still need, like a fresh injection of that kind of mentality. People who are willing to come here, work hard, do whatever it takes so that the next generation can have. I don't know what the great solution to that is. I'm not saying make illegal immigrants all legal, but I do think that we need to have something where we really value immigration here, because we do need that fresh injection of people who have come from the bottom and are willing to do whatever it takes to work their way up, And I think that defines very much of what America is. And it doesn't really matter if they're coming from Mexico or if they're coming from, wherever it happens to be, India. That defines very much of what I think the American spirit is. And if we were to take those people back in time and say, remove all the discussion about immigration today and just to tell the story about how Grandma and Grandpa came over here. They had jobs doing whatever menial tasks they could do. And then, the generation or two later, we've got, full-blown American citizens. That's a great story. It's like, that's the perfect American story.
Well, there's nothing more compelling than somebody who just gets it. Like, whatever happened in your past, wherever you came from, whoever you were, whatever you were yesterday, put it down and fight like hell for today to make something of yourself. And it's hard, but overcoming your circumstances and busting your ass and grinding it out day in and day out and fighting and clawing and working and loving your wife and raising your kids and, keeping the lights on and all of the challenges of modern life, not just Netflix until your freaking eyes get crusty or just get after it, stay after it, just stay in the fight until your goals are accomplished. There is something so compelling about people who are able to do that, and it's getting more and more rare. But what makes me proud about America is there is nowhere on this earth where you have more opportunity to do what I just talked about.
Yep, you're absolutely right.
Nowhere.
I started a business in my garage. I have a GED.
Yeah.
I mean,
you got a GED, bro?
I have a GED.
You got the good enough degree? That's awesome.
Yeah.
I did not know that about you.
Yeah, I do. And, so.
Yeah. And you're rapidly becoming one of the most successful people I know.
Yeah. Thank you. Make it all tank next week, but hey, that's part of being American.
Hey, it's you got the opportunity to fail just like you got the opportunity to succeed.
That's right. All right. So I think we've hit this one from a lot of different angles. Guys, I'd love to have any feedback on this. There's probably so many places where you could jump off and say, okay, Mike, I agree with this point, or Brandon, I don't agree with that point. I made you the guy they don't agree with.
That's all good. I'm used to that.
But whatever the case is, guys, I want your feedback on this. And if this spawns any other kind of questions, this doesn't have to be a one and done thing where, okay, well, we've talked about America. Check that one off the list. No, look, throw those questions.
It's a big subject.
It is a big subject. And I'd love to hear it from the perspectives of other people who have, recently come to America, or who have just that sort of generational immigrant kind of story. What are your guys' perspectives on the nation and what's happening here in America? Is it different than the America that you dreamed about or wanted to be a part of? How are you proud to be an American, right? And so there's a lot of different places we can go from this, but also if it spawns any new questions, guys, send them over to us, wolfandiron.com/askaman, and we'll get those emails. We'll take a look at them, and we'd love to answer those questions for you guys. Brandon and I have a lot of fun doing this. I think you guys pick up on that. And so we're going to keep doing this as long as we can. And that's all I got for today. Brandon, you got anything else?
I just want to say that, I talked a little bit about some political stuff and about the military and our engagements and stuff like that. If any of that came across as a lack of respect for those who serve in the military, that's a miscommunication on my part. I absolutely have nothing but respect for our military, the boots on the ground, and most of my issue lies with the politicians who make the decisions about where y'all go and what y'all do.
Yeah. We could actually probably just do another podcast on politics, and it'll be 4 hours long.
Good God, that.
But we'll have it all solved by the time we get done.
No, I don't think that's the case. But we'll definitely have a lot to talk about.
All right, fellas. I appreciate you listening. Talk to you later.